Hey everybody, I wanted to thank you very much for all the replays you sent me. I'm sorry it took so long for me to get to them. I've had a really busy weekend, but at the same time I wanted to get you guys some content before the weekend was over. This is going to be the first video. I haven't done much video editing in the past, so excuse me for the terrible title screen. I just wanted something clean that showed what episode and what hero and what role. If you guys have any suggestions or ways to make the title screen, cleaner but still interesting to look at, I'm more than open to any advice you guys have. Hopefully going forward I'll be able to post a video a day during the week, and the goal is to do one of every role. So hopefully we can get to that point. With all that out of the way and said, it's time to jump into the first episode with Quinn being played as an AD carry. One of the most important parts of League of Legends is knowing your champion and knowing the lane matchup. In this lane, Quinn and Nami are the lane bullies, and as such, early levels and experience are extremely important so they can outscale their opponents quickly and force them out of lane. I feel like the first misplay that Quinn makes in this game is staying way too long at red buff and then pathing incorrectly to lane. As you can see here, Quinn is going to take too many auto attacks on red. She's going to stay a little bit too long, and then she's going to path bottom instead of up through try, which slows her down long enough that she ends up missing 2 melees. On blue side, as an aggressive AD carry, it's really good to use your trinket early in that tri-brush so you can safely make it to lane in time to not miss any experience. She also stutter steps here by re-clicking the movement button in a different place and cancels even more time. In this clip, we're going to watch an excellent potential trade go horribly wrong with a few missteps and a little bit of miscommunication. As Quinn or Caitlyn, when you have some early game spells, you want to weave your autos between your spells. So right here, you should have opened with auto so that you use your spell while your auto is on cooldown. But instead you open with your spell, which ends up costing you 1 extra auto. You could have had 3 autos in this time period instead of 2. The second Morgana binding missed, you shouldn't have backed off there. And you need to follow your support. You see Nami start to push forward, but you back off instantaneously. You need to follow your support's lead. The support is the playmaker in bot lane. You end up costing Nami some health and just some mana, and you end up not getting as good a trade onto Jinx as you could have. That could have been a summoner burning trade right there because Jinx mispositioned, but you didn't capitalize on it. For the last few seconds after the trade, Jinx has been autoing down all the minions, while Quinn waits the last hit. Although last hitting is really good, it's really important to also keep lane dominance, and as a lane bully, hitting level 2 early is really important. You can also see that your opponent now has a bigger minion wave than you, and therefore is going to push into your tower, where you as a short-range lane bully do not want to be. You needed to match auto for auto with Jinx there to keep the lane in the middle, and also make sure they didn't hit level 2 too far before you. Right here, Nami misses her bubble. You need to respect the fact that your support no longer has really any support for you, and you need to play carefully. Right here, Jinx is walking up, and you put yourself in the line of fire to get an auto on a minion. So Jinx walks up here, and they have minion advantage, and Morgana is right behind her. And you put yourself directly in line to get slowed, then snared, and then autoed. Jinx backs off, luckily for you, otherwise I'm fairly sure you would have had to blown your heal here. All in all, it's really important to pay attention to the minion wave, who's leveling up and when they're leveling up, especially as a lane bully. In this next clip, as a change of pace, we're going to be showing Jinx make a really good play that ends up netting her 2 kills. So tower's low and she's putting good harass down on Morgana and Jinx in the preparation of diving them under the next wave. She starts proxying this wave a little and pushing it up so that her wave can easily get to the tower at full health, making it a sure thing that she'll be able to take the tower. Nami starts to ward up and they push up the next wave. Getting hit by that W is a little bit of a mistake, but not a major one. The first sort of minor mistake that you make is standing in the traps that Jinx puts down right here. There's really no reason to stand there and take that trap, and it only puts more damage on yourself. Jinx and Morgana end up staying way too long here, and Quinn makes a nice engagement. I think you were able to maybe get out of that Morgana ultimate if you would have kept on going with Quinn's ult, but I'm not 100% sure, so that flash might have been a really good play. Either way, good job on picking up the 2 kills there. Nice heads-up play. And as a defender for that tower, for anybody in the opposite situation, be very mindful of the fact that when that tower goes down and you're standing under it, you're the next target. So, and there's nothing nearby to save you. I've seen a lot of people at lower ELOs stay behind way too long when a tower is going down. So, good heads-up play. In this next play, it seems like Quinn's hubris is her downfall. She completely disrespects an AP mid laner's level and items. LeBlanc has finally finished her core item and has just hit level 12, and Quinn walks face first into LeBlanc here. She gets extremely lucky she lives here, and yet she turns around to walk back in, and LeBlanc picks up an easy kill. I'm fairly sure if you asked the Quinn player, this would be their shining moment from the game. I couldn't really find any mid-game team fights other than this one because there really weren't any. There was just a lot of people getting caught, a lot of weird skirmishes, a lot of people defending towers they shouldn't, people walking up to people they shouldn't, and really, most of them are very obvious mistakes that I don't need to comment much on. I'm pretty sure the second they happen, the person went, oh god, why did I do that? The other thing I want to comment on is the item build. I sort of promised myself I wouldn't, but in this case, it just seems so weird. Um, I haven't seen any AD carry in a very long time go double BF item. So Bloodthirster and Infinity Edge is extremely slow and actually doesn't give you, on paper, that much damage. Especially when you consider the 7-0 Jarvan out of lane who came with a Thornmail and Ninja Tabby into the first team fight, who on every single skirmish was on your face. To me, that screams I need Last Whisper and I need attack speed. Because I need to, one, be able to kite Jarvan, which requires attack speed, and Last Whisper to get through him if he's going to be on me every fight. But instead, Last Whisper was your 4th core item, which seems extremely slow. It's really important in games to not only, build the right items for your character, but also the right items for the game and adapt to the game. So we go from probably the best team fight for Quinn to a huge misstep by an 18-kill Quinn in a 35-minute game. You are the alpha carry on your team, and you're about to headhunt their 6-6 Jinx. We're running through their 12-kill LeBlanc and their 14-kill Jarvan, while LeBlanc is right in front of you after having used her dash. And you let them both wail on you while you get to her. That's a huge blunder for an AD carry. An AD carry, you hit the closest best target. In that case, you could have been wailing on LeBlanc instead. And I actually think if you would have popped LeBlanc right at the beginning, you could have won this team fight. So be very careful headhunting as AD carry, even as Quinn, because she is a little bit of an assassin. But that was way too deep. In this last clip, we're going to be seeing the final team fight of the game. In this fight, Quinn doesn't make a whole lot of errors, but she starts off the fight way overextended. And again, she doesn't put her trinket down. This is, throughout the entire game, I only saw Quinn put their trinket down once. It's something, as an AD carry, you do need to get used to, but it's something you do need to do. At the beginning of this fight, Nami does get out of position. And Quinn does a good job of putting as much damage down on Jarvan as safely as possible at the beginning of this fight. One of the first missteps I feel by Quinn is right here. Instead of E'ing out of the pit, she flashes. Quinn's E gives her a little bit of backwards displacement, and she would have been fine there. Right here, she walks a little too far before turning back on Jax. Although running away from Jax was the correct play, the second she saw Jax wasn't continuing to chase, she could have gotten a couple more autos down. Here, she walks forward and continually cancels her autos and then turns on minions. Right now, she's letting Jinx just wail on her, and she ends up dying to a LeBlanc auto after taking incidental damage from Jinx 4 times in a row without backing off. But those are very minor things in a very fast team fight. We're slowing this down here, so it's a lot harder for our Quinn to be able to see these things as they're happening live. Overall, I think Quinn did a pretty good job this game. That isn't to say this game wasn't carryable or that she doesn't have things to work on, but overall, I think she should be happy with her performance. That being said, going forward, there's a couple things she can take away from this game that can apply to almost every game. I think the first thing is early lane aggression and early levels. Missing those two first melee minions was a big no-no and put you behind. The second thing is you really do need to be matching your opponent's push and or pushing more than them so that you can get that early level 2 and get that fast engage and extra damage. The other big thing is you need to follow your support's lead. The support is the playmaker, and a lot of times throughout this game you sort of left Nami out to dry. She'd land good bubbles, but you just were never in the position to follow up, and or you weren't paying attention. You were too busy worrying about that next last hit you can get. And as a lane aggressor, that's sort of not how you want to play the lane. And I think the last major thing is use your trinket. It's free vision, and you only used it once this game. These are a lot of really basic things. Actually, no, I lied. There was one more thing. Last hitting under tower. When minions are under tower, you want to mainly be focusing on the minion that's getting hit by the tower, because it's going to be the one that's taking the damage the quickest. And there are a lot of times where there'd be like 2 mage minions that were low coming toward tower, and you wouldn't wait until the tower would actually aggro into one of them before firing, and the tower would aggro into the one that you weren't firing at, and you'd end up losing a CS that you could have easily gotten. There were actually a lot of times where you just missed CS a tower that was very doable, and I'm sure you know this, but you should always be looking at the one the tower is hitting, because it's going to be the one that takes the most burst. I say this, and I know it sounds very obvious, but you probably missed maybe 20 to 25 CS throughout the game to that in the first like 15 minutes. So I would spend some time like thinking about that and working on it. Otherwise, thank you so much for your replay. I enjoyed going over it, and hopefully you learned something. For everybody else, if you have any criticisms, constructive criticisms, things I can do better, things I should improve on, pretty much anything I can work on, I'd love to hear it. You can message me either here or on Reddit. Otherwise, if you have any replays, I'd also love to have those. Going forward, I hope to have another episode out by tomorrow. It is a little bit time consuming, but the more I do, the faster they should go. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.